Good morning, good afternoon. This is going to be an incredible show. I have my guest, which I'm not seeing in the green room yet. So hang in here with me. Both my computers are having issues. I'm trying to get in there. Okay, unreal. Always happens. I'm starting to get like this I don't know what it is. My emails, Rumble, YouTube, people can't get on the show. I can't get the screens don't work. Look, this isn't coincidence. Lewis Herms is our guest today. He's got a lot to unload, a lot to unpack. And it's just crazy what I deal with. People say, "Oh, well, it's just technology." I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think I'm very liked, and that's okay. Okay, hold on. All right, hang on. We'll send again. Okay, guys, this is live in. Just you got to go with me here. What's happening? Wow. Let me see if I can get this. And this is what happens on live shows. But I love them. I love them. Okay. Okay. I think we're good. I think he should be on in a second. But for now, let me go over, this is a double-decker Delora day, as you know. Fab 4 is tonight, and so they're going to be a bit of an interesting show. If you look at the title and the description, it kind of says it all. I got some stuff to show you. Going to have some laughs too. But Dennis has got one thing. I was on the floor. But anyway, that's tonight, 6 o'clock, right here on Rumble, also on X and Eastern. First of all, here's a new necklace. Jenna, you know what? I'm going to take it off. This is stainless steel. It's called Be Still and Know. Isn't that gorgeous? It says Be Still on it. And it is stainless steel. It's a diamond cut chain. You see how it sparkles? It's really gorgeous. That's a new one. And so it also comes in gold. And then the cross charm, natural stone. These are all natural stones, stretchy. This is stainless steel. This is stainless steel. Really beautiful. They come in with the cross. You see it? Come in abundance of colors. The great stack too. Like you could stack like 3 or 4 of them. I got a bunch of different colors. And then this is, it comes in this bag. Isn't this cute? Let me show you what it is. This is a Psalm 91 bookmark. Okay. So you put this in the book to hold your place. If you're a reader like I am, it's got a crystal, like a sapphire there, and a cross. And here it says Psalm 91:4. You want to talk about a beautiful Mother's Day gift? I would have loved this. Anyway, it's stainless steel. Again, it goes in the book like that. It's a big feather. It's just absolutely amazing. And when you get it, it comes like this. It's just awesome. So Jenna wanted me to show you those things. She said all of them are linked in the description below this video. Easiest place to access them. And also on joyandcountry.com, you can get them in Delora's closet. You can go there as well and find that. And don't forget, always it is free shipping. But today is Saturday Steals. You get 10% off your entire order until tomorrow night at midnight using the code Saturday. Applies to everything on the site, clearance, the whole thing. And as always, as I say, free shipping. So no matter how many of these things you get, you never pay shipping. Okay, let's see how he's doing. Did you get that? This may turn into a Q&A, guys. Shoot, this is, isn't it unreal? I'm at the point where Okay. Can't get on. Yikes. This is really amazing to me. It's a good thing I could just sit and talk about nothing for an hour, or I would be in trouble. All right, hang on. I'm believing he's coming on. Father, in Jesus' name, get him on here. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to answer some questions till he gets on. This is, Lewis and I, he lives in California. I lived in California in the 80s. And then in 2006, we went back, and that's when I started working with Kim. And I know a lot of what Lewis speaks about because I was there, like up close and personal. There is a story I have, and I touched on it before. Here he is for another time. All right. Praise the Lord, Lewis. There he is, Lewis Herms.
Can you hear me? That's the question.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. So my whole system is, I don't know. In fact, honey, if you're in the background, you don't want to be walking around because they'll be able to see you today.
Yeah, listen, Lewis, and I know you jump on once in a while and get in the chat, but if you ask people that are here and are part of the gathering community that are, kind of our every single time I'm on, they jump on, and there's a lot of them. They will tell you, I have the most bizarre things happen to me. People's systems crash right before they come on. It happened to Joe Dingle Wednesday. His whole system crashed, or last week, whole system crashed. It's just constant. I do things on here. I can't get back on. A black screen comes up. Rumble. I said, all of this cannot be coincidence. They don't like me.
Yeah.
And you know, there. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. The powers of darkness are having a block.
Exactly what you said happened. So my son rebuilt my computer. It was running amazing, right? Got a new monitor yesterday. Everything was incredible. And today on my new setup, black screen of death. Couldn't even get, I tried to restart my computer several times, couldn't get on it. I had 30 images ready to display and show you today, right? So now I'm on my laptop and that wouldn't start. And that's a brand new laptop. And it finally got started and here we are. Craziness.
It's at the point where I'm getting a complex. Like, come on my show and let your computer crash. I should have an ad. Okay. I'm going to finish, and this is good. I started a story and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Cool. What I like about why I don't have a lot of people on here that deal with this topic because I don't know them. And the one thing you cannot argue with is experience. When you've had an experience, you cannot take that from that person, especially when it's been an experience over and over again. When I was living in, we moved to California. We lived there in the 80s in LA area. And then again in Studio City from 2006. That's when I worked with Prophet Kim Clement. And we moved there in 2006. And I was producing and I was directing and I was, SAG signatory producer and ended up with expanding my talent management company and on and on and on. I don't want to get into that. But I had an experience, Lewis, that was so horrific with myself and my young daughter, who at that time was in her teens, with a famous comedian who offered to take us home from an event because my daughter had it. She was young. She didn't want to be there. I didn't blame her. And tried to molest the two of us and begged us and would pay us all kinds of money. Here what she was, a young girl, to have a threesome with him. This is a famous comedian. Now, that scarred me for many, many years. I can't even tell you what went on. I don't even want to bring it up. So when you tell me, I was from the last show, I was working, I was in construction, we had to go in a house, we saw things, there was tunnels, there was this, there was that. I have no problem believing that. I've seen more things than I care to say. That's one of them. Experience is the best teacher, and experience also, you can't take that from me now. I know what goes on. That's why I called it Tinseltown. Shiny object, shiny. All that seems to be gold is not. So setting that up for you, could you please bring us where you were now in this show? I know you did one yourself on this, but bring us to the next place that you went to, where you left off last time.
Last time we were talking about the Burkle mansion, right? Do you want me to continue to go into that?
I want you to go where you feel in God to reveal today. That's what I want you to do. I don't care how it gets. I know that this is not BS from you. I know this. So I want you to go wherever you feel to go.
Okay, cool. So there's two stories. One I was intimately involved in, which builds into the second one, which was just a reveal that I did on the Playboy mansion. So the first one in the 90s, I think it was 93, I was working for a commercial plumbing company, and we were troubleshooters. My friend and I were the two top troubleshooters in the company, and this was the largest company of its type, just so you know. And that means that when there was an issue, we would be set there to try to figure it out. So our territory went from Santa Barbara all the way to southern Orange County and Riverside, which is a massive territory where everybody else had territory of just a couple cities. And the reason why is because we were troubleshooters. So one day we got a call and we said, we want you guys to go to this Beverly Hills home and do some inspections. Very odd call anyways. And then we found out it's the owner of a major business that was one of our major clients. And that was at the times Rouse, Alpha, I don't know if it was Alpha Beta, but there was Food for Less. There was all these huge stores that this guy owned. So we ended up going to this mansion. And today, if you go there, the front gate is already blocked out on Google, of course. But we went in, the security let us in. We went in, didn't think much of it, made a left turn. Now there's a wall inside of a wall, which was very odd. It was like double security. So we didn't even know. And then the closer we got, we're like, I wonder how big this is. So we drove both of our trucks in, and the security met us right there when we turned the corner. And this mansion was huge, 40,000 square foot mansion. Now, so to cut the long story short, this mansion was I believe, in escrow to a guy named Ron Burkle. And Ron Burkle was purchasing this. Unbeknownst to us, the reason why he was purchasing it is because he wanted a foot into Hollywood. He was just the owner of these grocery stores. He was a grocery store magnate, they called him, right? So he wanted a foot into Hollywood. So how did he get that? Is this place, which is known as Green Acres, by the way, not the show, but the mansion is known as Green Acres. He was told, or he knew, that they had the biggest celebrity charity event get together in all of California was here every single year. So he bought it with the contingent that he would in perpetuity keep running this charity. Well, the owner probably didn't know that's what he wanted. He wanted his foot into the door with them, right? So he ended up buying this thing for, I think, like a $19 million discount, went from 39 million to 20 million. And the goal was, he said to us, is, you need to go around the whole property and find as many problems as you can so you can reduce the price. So we're going to be there for 1 to 2 weeks. So my buddy and I went through the whole property, and security for the first day and a half, 2 days, was right on our heels, literally tripping over our cords on things that we wanted to inspect. So I called Burkle up and I said, Ron, this is ridiculous. Do you want to spend more money or less money? He says, well, clearly I want to spend less money. I said, call off the dogs. I go, there's no residents here. There's nothing going on. Call your security guys off. So his security went back into the little hutch. They have a whole security guardhouse and everything on property. Anybody understands Beverly Hills, that's kind of normal in some cases. So then we started to inspect the property. So in the back of the property, we actually found a fake entrance, well, a real entrance, but it was a secret entrance to the property in the back of the property. We're talking, 5 acres. And sure enough, my buddy and I drove around the next day just to see what it looked like from the outside, and you couldn't see it. It was all covered in bushes and everything. So literally, they would drive into this, open that gate up, and let probably, famous people through there. So that was one anomaly that was interesting. So when I started to dig this, now this is 30 some years later, I found out that Google has removed the name of the street behind the house. It's an actual real street. It's a no-name street. You never see that on Google Maps. So literally they've gotten rid of the name of the street. So that's some power that you have if you can get Google to do that. So we're going around on the property. You'll find that there is actually a miniaturized size home, and we didn't think anything of it, but we said, let's go inspect it. So we had to crawl in it. Delora, there's an actual working sink and a working toilet in there, miniature size for children. In addition to that, there's an actual carousel like you would see at Santa Monica Pier. You're familiar with Los Angeles, just like Santa Monica Pier with the beautiful horses on it. I have all these pictures, but we can show them to you another day. So that's kind of crazy. Now, at the time, I have to admit, 30 years ago, my friend and I were justifying like, well, famous people are here. They probably want to give their kids some fun with not having them be, in front of the paparazzi and all that stuff. So they built themselves a little fairyland is what it was called. I know better now. So we go into the house and we're doing work, and it's huge. And, there's two full commercial kitchens that could house 30 employees in this house. That was weird too. Why would they need that? Now, hindsight, we know they don't want to cater food in. They want everything to be in-house and controlled, right? Went through this house. We went upstairs and we found this room I would call the black room now. So you walk in and there's actually a beautiful pool table that's all black. The felt is black, everything's black. Frames of pictures, famous people on the wall, black. You go into, there's an adjoining, a huge bathroom with a Masonic black and white floor with black porcelain sinks and a black stand-up urinal for men in there with gold fixtures all over it. I'm like, now that was, even back then, that was odd. So then we finally since we got the security off, we decided to be the mischievous guys we were at a young age, and we wanted to look all over the mansion. So we looked at every room and going around, and we went into this incredibly beautiful library like you would see in Hollywood, on a film, floor to ceiling, bookshelves with this beautiful ladder that scrolls across it that you can climb up to the top, and that existed. And I'm like, wow, these are real. I always thought it was just fake stuff. And my friend and I were joking at times, I wonder if they have a secret door behind the bookcase, right? But there weren't any books in it because it was emptied out because of their transferring ownership. But we saw a seam between two bookcases, similar to the bookcases you'd see in the back, but there was a seam between them. We said, wow. I wonder if, I said, I'm going to play with this. You have lookout. Let's see if anything's going on. So I'm pushing and pulling, and finally I push in, and it clicked, Delora, and it came out like it was a magnet of some sort. I open it up, and there's a door behind the door. I just got the chills right now. So, because I remember this moment so vividly. And I said, let's go. My friend was hesitant. I said, don't worry, we're going to close the bookshelf behind us so they'll have no clue where we are. So we went down, and it goes down into stairs, down underneath this place. We started to smell the cedar smell, very, very strong cedar smell. And which would be fine, but it was overwhelming. We know why, because when we turned the corner to go in, there's about 20, 30 feet of shoe shelves, floor to ceiling, well, about 6 feet tall, all the way down for a while, and they were all made of cedar. At the time, we were joking. We go, I wonder if Imelda Marcos used to live here, because the joke
Yeah,
was that
yeah, her shoes.
she had all the shoes, right? But they were empty. So we covered our mouths and walked past the shoe shelves, and to the right there was a beautiful studio, underground studio with leather chairs reclining. Now remember, in the 90s, that wasn't a thing. So they were way ahead of time. They had a huge screen for filming movies or whatever they were doing under there, right? We keep going down and going to another door, which I believe was on the right also. It was like a miniature bowling alley and kids type stuff, toys and things under there. We thought that was odd, but then of course I'm justified. I go, well, if they're screening movies down here for people, maybe they don't want their kids close by, so they give them some entertainment. That's the thought process 30 some years ago, right? We get down to the end, and underneath there's a door, and the door is completely locked. It was a what do you call it? Combination lock with a handle. Of course, I tried it. Should have wiped my fingerprints off of it, but I tried it.
Ah,
It did not open. So later on, we find out that it was most likely connected to other places around Hollywood and Beverly Hills, which I have some proof of that, which I'm going to go into in a minute. Jump in anytime to ask questions, by the way. So we go through the house, so on and so forth, and yes, that was weird. So at that time, we did our work over the 2 weeks, and we always had this thing like, God, that was a really weird house. It was very odd. And then what happened is a couple decades later, I revealed this about 4 years ago, about 3.5, 4 years ago. I had a construction business, and I was doing outdoor designs where you redo somebody's backyard with all this beautiful, beautiful stuff, kitchens and things like that. And I had this lady who hired me on to do designs and build out her backyard, and we were doing design. So we became friends after a while because there was a lot of design going on. She had a lot of changes, and turns out she was the ex-wife of somebody that probably is as famous as the Pope in the entertainment business. And what I mean by that is everybody worldwide would know this person's name. If I would be shocked if they didn't. That's how famous this person was, and that was her ex. So, but we were just talking, and I talked about, oh yeah, I was in this Beverly Hills mansion one time, and I started describing it to her, and she's like, "You mean Green Acres?" And I didn't know what it was Green Acres at the time, so I said, I don't know. Some dude named Ron Burko owned it, and she turned white.
ah,
And I said, what's going on? She was hesitant to tell me, and then finally she said, well, I was friends with Burko's wife, and they would have these events come up, and Bill Clinton, while Bill Clinton was president of the United States, would go to their main charity event, which is the one I talked about, every year. But he would stay over for sometimes a week or more after all the guests left. He would stay in the mansion. So you, me, and everybody else in the world thought he was at Martha's Vineyard. He was not at Martha's Vineyard. He was in the Burkle mansion called Green Acres in Beverly Hills. She found
okay,
out
hold
later.
on one. Go ahead, hold on. I just want to, people are asking things in the chat. Lewis is doing a recap of what we did last time. He's going to take it somewhere from here, just so
Right.
you guys know. Go ahead.
So that's why I'm summarizing everything. So then what happened is she explained that Clinton and Burkle would bring these. Okay, she was sent out of town with her friend for an exotic vacation for a couple weeks in another country, so she didn't know. So when she came back, she ended up hearing things, and she heard that Bill Clinton and Burkle would bring these underage girls in and have their way with them for weeks. Now, think about this. Why do we never hear from these underage girls? Well, they can be disappeared because
That's right.
we never got through that locked door that was underneath the ground. These are all factual with the underground. I've seen it with my own eyes. Later on, I find out that Burkle was the godfather of P. Diddy, and that he gave P. Diddy $100 million for his clothing business, which probably isn't worth $100,000. So you know how that works. So I believe Burkle's probably was the before Epstein type guy. Don't know, but I think he should be investigated. So fast forward, how does this link up with what's going on now? So then what I did is actually Nino Rodriguez just asked me a question. He goes, "What do you know about the Playboy Mansion?" And I said, "Well, a little bit." And he says, "Well, I've been there before, blah, 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 blah." He goes, "I hear things." I said, "Well, let me do a dig on it and see what I come up with." Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What I
Yeah.
came up with, and I took some notes here, and I would have showed you pictures, but we had the computer issue. So I'm going to look at some of the notes, because what I did, Delora, and it's on X if anybody wants to see these two threads, I created a timeline, and this timeline, I believe, will unequivocally prove that he was CIA. It was a honeypot operation, and they were doing MK Ultra and more. But I'm going to go through this timeline, which blows people away. So,
Yeah. Let me just say something real quick.
Sure.
Playboy Mansion was the reason I know it. I never was there, but there's a reason I know it. And the Bel Air Mansion is in Holmby Hills. Most of what you're talking about, just for a point of reference for our audience, is in Holmby Hills and Bel Air. They're sisters. It's actually, if I believe I have it correct, it's called the Platinum Circle or the Platinum Triangle, because that's where the who's who's of whoever is who and that whole circle lives. Go ahead.
And it's true. In fact, it's interesting you said that, because back then we were calling it Bel Air. Only when I researched the address did I change and say it was Beverly Hills. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
And Holmby Hills is right within that whole. If you look at all of it, it's kind of right in the center. They didn't call it Holmby Hills then, I don't think. They did when I moved there in 2006, and we were there till 2016. So during that time, when you went, you say, no, it's over in Holmby Hills. And everybody knew right away where that was.
Got it.
It's that Platinum Triangle, I think it's called. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. If you just drive up there, it's interesting. It's amazing too is how close the Beverly Hills Police Department is to there. But I'm sorry, the BHPD, they're all bought and paid for. Let's just be honest.
That's right.
100% is, if anything on the street and below, they would police. Anything up above, they would ignore unless it affected one of the residents.
Yeah. Well, that's why if you go to, when we first moved to California, we lived off of 3rd Street. Okay. They have beautiful apartments, a couple of sets of apartments there. Wow. A lot of this is coming back. And if you go to Beverly Hills, you know that cross section where there's no lights. Everybody just takes turns right in this dead center of Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
You know where I mean? Yeah. If you go there, and you go a mile or 2 miles east, north, south, west, it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
You step 1 foot out of that, it's hard to believe you're in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And it's gotten even worse now. So what you're saying about the BHPD is Beverly Hills Police Department is absolutely correct. There could be a murder and they could see it a quarter of a mile up the street from Beverly Hills. They won't go near it.
Yeah. They're not interested. It's very they're literally all they care about is protecting the wealthy there. And I'm sure they do a good job.
Yeah.
But they're also protecting their debauchery, and that's what's really sad.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
So what happened is when I started doing a dig, by the way, I was curious if these two mansions were connected in any way. So when I started doing a dig on Hugh Hefner, I found that in 2009 there's an actual lawsuit from a CIA whistleblower, and her name's Laurel Aston, and she said, "quote Hefner is a CIA programmer, CIA sex slave handler, and pimp. Hefner was also part of running MK Ultra super assassins and ops." So
Wow.
let me dig in and see if this is true. So I'm going to take you all through a timeline. I think it's going to blow your mind because it blew my mind, and I was digging on it and I'm like, what am I seeing here? So we're going to go all the way back to 1937. And in 1937 is when they first released the formula for adrenochrome. Now, adrenochrome is known as the white rabbit. If people look at the formula, that's what it's known as. And the colors are known as red and pink. Okay.
Please explain to the audience what it is.
What adrenochrome is. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to have to go back there, but a lot of people just jumping into this, Lewis. Believe me, I get emails.
That's fair. So what it is it's adrenochrome is adrenalized blood that has been oxidized through the terrifying of humans. So while they are being terrified and tortured and so on and so forth, you actually go in and you extract from the adrenals and this blood, and it's a weird red color that actually has a pink hue to it. And what it does is these crazies will then take that extraction and they drink it, or sometimes insert it in their own veins.
That's right. Yeah.
And they get supposedly they get a lot younger. There's a lot of things that happen to them. Their skin gets better. They get energized. They can see and hear clearly, and they go into a realm of understanding that's really weird. And I believe it's probably a satanic realm, would be my guess, right? And it's very odd. And when you interview some people that have been on adrenochrome, and there's a couple out there, they're willing to say that they were. Some didn't know they were taking it. Some did. But when you listen to them, it's amazing what they're saying. This is bad stuff. And it comes from, they found out that the best, most purest form, unfortunately, is extracted from children.
Okay. Curious Tadpole said, remember the movie Death Becomes Her?
Yes. Remember that?
Very interesting. Okay, Go ahead, Lewis.
So that was 1937, I believe. Let me check. Yes. And then in 1942, for a short time, there's an organization that was actually created by FDR called the OSS. That's the Office of Strategic Service, right? Now, what did they do? They did special interrogations, and they were trying to create super assassins with drugs. What do you think that drug could have been? Well, they said it enhanced abilities, the adrenochrome did, and that was just 5 years prior that they formulated it, and they knew how to extract it. They knew what to do. I believe there's a connection there. But let's move forward. In 45, just a couple years later, the OSS shuts down. But in 1947, the CIA comes up under Truman. Okay. And then you go from there, and I call it the spy machine, and they were pulling all the strings. But look at this, and this is what's crazy. In 1949, Hefner did what? He grabbed a psychology degree. I'm going to show you a picture, if I could show it on here, that will blow you away. This is actually his yearbook picture right there. And I don't know if you could see the writing.
It says Division of Special Services Psychology.
There you go. That's what Hefner was doing. If anybody understands the CIA and the way they work, this is the type of people they recruit.
That's right.
And this is who they had right there. So Division of Special Services Psychology. There's no doubt about it to me that this guy's a CIA agent, and I should be able to prove it moving forward here. So then 2 years later, everything seems to jump 2 years. 2 years later, Alice in Wonderland came out, right? And what did they do? They introduced the White Rabbit. We know how they always tell on themselves, right? This is through pop culture. The White Rabbit is in fact, I can show some pictures on here. That's the adrenochrome.
Right.
Right there. I might be able to do this anyways. And there's Alice in Wonderland with her little white rabbit. Okay, now that was in 1951. 1953, CIA launches the MK Ultra mind control program. This all will come into play. The same year that Hefner starts Playboy magazine with just $8,000. This guy became almost a billionaire with just $8,000. That's all he started, right? We're supposed to believe that he got Marilyn Monroe on the first cover of Playboy magazine with just $8,000, right?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So I'm sure that the CIA or somebody like that or some organization financed him. That's his first ever one. Marilyn Monroe, and he had $8,000. Look what's inside, and this is what tells me this is about adrenochrome. Inside the first ever magazine is a white rabbit.
Wow. Wow. Now there are, listen, I know because I know a lot of them. There are people, Lewis, that are going to say, this is all just conjecture. This is all, I could take things and put them together. And what do you tell those people?
Well, in this one, I would say keep listening because it gets a lot better. But, but if it's a normie, I'll say, there has to be a time where too many coincidences mathematically just do not add up.
That's right. And that's the answer.
Yep. And that's just what it is. So that's in 53. So what he did from 53 to 1971 is he spent all his time building Playboy clubs, not the mansion, but clubs. And what they did, and if you don't think this is an operation that he was helped with, so think about this. $8,000, he did the first Playboy magazine, and then right away he starts building clubs, right? With his money from that. And within 2 months, he had hundreds of thousands of people visiting multiple clubs. Does that even make sense? No. He had support, he had an infrastructure. But the reason why he was setting this up, in my opinion, is because these are A-listers. He had Frank Sinatra there, John Lennon there, Elvis, everybody you can possibly imagine was there. These were from New York to Tokyo. They were all over the world. He had these clubs.
And all the girls were dressed like bunnies.
They were all dressed like bunnies, right? Red and pink, all over, red and pink bunnies all over the place. He had a little blue bunny thing for a time, but he went away from that. But they were all dressed like bunnies. But guess what they're doing? There's proof of this, by the way. There's so many stories. He was gathering information on all the A-listers. He was building a network of blackmail. That's right. What he was doing. Why would one guy do that? Well, because in my opinion, the CIA was controlling him, or he was their puppet. So in 1971, he then built the Playboy Mansion, or didn't build it, he bought it. He bought the Playboy Mansion, and then he soon put in what we know as the grotto. In fact, I have a picture of the grotto right here. So he did the grotto. Okay, that's in 71. And then what he did, so he started attracting everybody there. That place was filled with cameras, Delora. There's so many Playboys now after his death that have come out and said there was the multiple cameras peeking through the walls in every single room. Even Nino has firsthand accounts of somebody that he knows was blackmailed there for $100,000. And that's what it was. A huge blackmail operation is what it was. Now, you want to see how sick this guy is. In 1975, in 1975, Brooke Shields' mom sold her
Unreal. I know this.
to take pornographic pictures at 10 years old. 10 years old.
You know, that came out then.
Right. And it was ignored, which is
ignored.
Yeah. Well, and here's why. Well, in 1976, Hugh Hefner printed these pornographic pictures of a 10-year-old Brooke Shields in his magazine. And nobody did anything about it. You know why? Because they were all compromised. All the judges were probably at the Playboy mansion. He's already had pictures and everybody compromised doing sexual deeds and drugs or whatever they were doing. So he could get away with. How could you possibly get away with printing these pictures of a 10-year-old nude?
Let me jump in here for 1 second. There, as you're talking, my mind is going. And this is what I realized. Satan is very long suffering and patient.
Mm-hmm.
He can be, he's an eternal, where he will spend eternity is not good, but he is eternal and he's a spirit. So he doesn't age. So it's not a problem. I wait 30, 40, 50, 60 years. But what I realized is you're talking about the Playboy mansion and then we're talking about the bunnies and the whole thing, is that was the forerunner to pornography online. Playboy, it was interesting because Playboy magazine had at the beginning just women in beautiful bathing suits. And then as it progressed, then half of them were naked. And then then they were completely naked. But there was a part of that magazine that was for the intellectual, if you remember. Mm-hmm. These pseudo-intellectual interviews and all these these commentaries people would make on the world and on education and so what they did is they snuck this in before the internet came about so that people's minds were already seared. If you look back in the 50s and 60s and even in almost into the 70s, in TV shows, men and women couldn't sleep in the same bed. They had to have twin beds. So as you're saying this, I'm realizing what Satan did over many years. He seared the conscience of people to accept what we're living in today, where a transgender can go into a school classroom to 6 years old and teach them how having sex, no matter who it is, with whoever is good. And now they're going after the young. I'm sorry to go off. That's my rant.
No, I love it.
You're right.
You're 100% right, though. That's exactly what it is. I've been saying forever, the deep state cabal, which are Satanists, they play the long game where we can't even play until the weekend. And this is why we've been getting our ass kicked for centuries, not just months, but centuries.
That's right.
Because we're thinking, well, what are we going to do here? Or well, I got to go pick my crops today, back in the day or whatever it was. And they're playing the long game because I think you're right. So it went into, well, also let's not forget that when Playboy started putting out their magazines and doing this right after that, what happened? The sexual revolution happened and, free sex all over the place. And it goes on and on and on. In fact, I was part of that because my mom was a freaking hippie and she was a psychologist. So I was
unbelievable.
It's hilarious because my dad was the opposite and they were separated. So at least I got some balance there. But it was when I look back, by the way, so everybody knows, the CIA is actually created the 70s for you. But
I believe the CIA created Woodstock. Let's go another step.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. all of that was a creation. If you really dig deep into it, and if people ever want to, they say, well, that's conjecture. I go, well, there's actually Russian agents that teamed up with CIA that have spoken on record that turned in the hippie revolution into a psychedelic drug sex revolution. They've said that themselves. That was their goal. They went into a peace and love and they flipped it on its head and it worked. So
That's right.
that's not even conjecture. So back to this in 77, 1977, blueprints of his mansion actually came out. These are blueprints underneath.
Okay, you got to flip your phone. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So blueprints of underneath, those are tunnels. And I can even tell you right here, it says the one all the way on the left is Warren Beatty's house. The tunnel goes to Warren Beatty's house. And then another tunnel goes to Kirk Douglas's house, another one to James Caan's house, and another one to Jack Nicholson's residence. These are blueprints that they discovered in the basement and they got a hold of, and then these came public, and then they interviewed Hugh Hefner. Wouldn't be interviewed on it, but they interviewed the manager of the property. He finally admitted, oh yeah, but those were never built, and they just happened to be laying down there. In fact, this is a picture they put out. See, look at, they're just laying around down there. Nothing. That this was kind of their excuse. But anybody that's worth their salt knows the truth. And then these pictures came out. These are actually underneath the tunnels. So proof is that they weren't just laying down there. These tunnels were actually built. And these are verified pictures that are from the Playboy mansion. So the mansion itself is filled with two-way mirrors with cameras behind them. In fact, I even shocked Nino. Is I have a picture right here, which you not going to be able to see it very well here. But this is a hidden door on top of the grotto, looking down into the grotto. So they literally pull back the carpet, open up the door.
Look, there's a saying, and it is the truest statement. Never fails. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That saying holds true all the time. When you see, what were the tunnels for? What, did they just like to go down there and walk them?
Well, I'm digging into that because now there's some reports from people that were there that have escaped that said there were children. That's where the tunnels were for the children itself. The adults were not allowed to go down there unless, they were part of doing the bad things. So that's pretty sick and sad if that's true. Hefner died in 2017, and slowly now the bunnies are coming forward and saying, well, here's what was really going on. Because when they were interviewed before his death, even a year or two after his death, oh, he's amazing and everything was great. Now, if you start looking at the interviews that are coming out since 2022 to now, they're saying he was lecherous, he did this, he had blackmail on everybody, cameras are all over. So they're starting to tell on him now, because a couple of them told, now they're all starting to let out the truth. So it's crazy. I do want to show people this connection.
I got a great question here. Eek001 says, think they lead to other houses? Of course.
Yeah. Well, we've got the blueprints right here. I've been told that it's likely that it led to the one mansion I was talking about, by the way, the Burkle mansion. And there's been 2 reports that I've seen. I haven't verified them, so I don't put it out as fact, but 2 reports that it also leads to the Getty Museum. And if you want to dig in deep to the Getty Museum, I've been there personally to investigate with a friend and my wife. The Getty Museum is 100% covering up something. You've got a property that's like $50 million, and they don't have any artwork that's over $5,000 in value there. It is the crappiest museum you've ever seen in your life. And it's very demonic when you go there. And there's a guy named Steve that did a great job disclosing stuff on there. He's kind of a hothead. I had him on my show, but he has good information. and the Getty Museum is most likely been a huge part of human trafficking through Los Angeles. And I've been told by two different people, I haven't verified it, that a tunnel from the Playboy Mansion went to the Getty Museum.
Yeah, yeah. That's big. You know, if you visit the Getty Museum and you have any kind of sense at all or intuition, it's a very, very dark place.
Oh, it is. It is. It's weird too.
Very dark.
It's they don't
It's
like
very weird.
you go down the road to the Norton Simon Museum and they'll have pieces of art that are in a crappy building, and they'll have pieces of art that are worth millions of dollars. And you go into a $50 million property and they have just you've never the most famous artist they had is some dude from the Netherlands, and it was just crap. Really.
That's
And the
right.
only thing they had of value there were actually books on witchcraft. Go figure. Old books on witchcraft is what they really had of value there. It's a very odd situation. And to me, it seems like an absolute cover. They couldn't even pay for the employees based on what they had going on there. Just very odd.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of my uh friends of my daughter, I should say, and I knew their parents because she was so involved in acting and music from, 6, 7 years old. And I would be with her like this. Like my husband and I were talking about it today when we were talking about this show. Like she couldn't go anywhere without me, like right there, not only as her talent manager, but as her mom. And I know as they got older and she was 15, 16 years old, and her friends would get jobs in these places, and their parents would get jobs in these places. They would have to sign an NDA that they could not, or I don't know if it was an NDA, whatever it was, that you could not say non-disclosure. Yeah, it was a non-disclosure. You couldn't say what they saw, anything that was there. It's very, very bizarre. Very bizarre.
The NDAs now, by the way, Delora, I've read a couple of them, are so tight that people almost fear for their life and the well-being of their family members based on an NDA, because they fear like if they're going to break this, they're literally saying you will be completely bankrupt, you will own nothing, it will take everything from you
Absolutely.
in perpetuity, like and everything that you earned for 10 or 20 years. These are the way these NDAs are written. So when
That's
people are,
right.
oh yeah, I can't wait to be famous, and they sign on these things, and then they're really afraid because oh, by the way, I've heard that they co-witness some NDAs, so a family member, can you believe, is actually held accountable if the other person breaks the NDA, like you're the financial backing. Can you believe? So they're going to just, so you're saying, oh, you mean I'll destroy my mom also? Crazy. And they just sign, yeah, let's just go, hey mom, just
I
sign this
know.
note.
I know. I know. It's
No big deal.
amazing. And people some people have heard this story before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but just talking about an NDA real quick, we go sideways here. 2019, a friend of mine who was a symphony, or I don't want to go down the road too much because if you know me, you're going to know who it is. But he was called, and I had moved out of LA. And he knew me from LA, and he called me and said, "Hey, I'm in DC now. I'm living here. I was asked to play at this. Somebody big died. This huge thing in Washington, this huge funeral, and it was all kept under wraps. It's 2019." And he said, "But this NDA I have to sign is like, this thick." And he said, "But they're giving me this gazillion amount of money." And he said, "I know you know about this stuff. What would I do? What would you do?" And I said, "I wouldn't go near it I wouldn't even touch it." And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. I have a feeling I know who died, because then out comes the fake 46 mask and looks like a different person. Very
Interesting.
interesting. Very interesting. But I digress. Go ahead.
No, that's beautiful. Well, I'll just end with this. Here's what's interesting. So that's from Alice in Wonderland. Notice the floor in the background. Hugh Hefner, the day he released his first magazine, notice the floor in the background.
Jeez, incredible.
They always have to give signals and tell on themselves.
That's right. Karmic retribution.
That's what's going on. So I hope that gives people enough. If they still don't believe, you can go to X or do some more research. But it's very clear to me that he was a CIA operative, and he was in there to get as much information and compromise as many people with significance in the elitist political Hollywood realm, so they can be puppeted. And that's the way these people work. So let's say you go to the Playboy Mansion, you have no bad intentions, and then you end up doing something stupid. Well, that was filmed, right? And then they will hold it over your head and get you to do their bidding.
Yeah, that's Epstein Island. That's across the board. Hollywood, this happens all the time. And it's, people wonder why certain people become famous and others that are so talented do not. You can obtain a certain level of success, Lewis, as you know. But if you think you're going to go into the realm of A-list stardom and make, money that you'll make and fame and power that comes with that, you're going to pay a price. You're not going to, and there's a lot of people that want out. And so they pull they unalive themselves. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And there's so many levels to this that I don't know if we could ever get to it all. Are you, now let me ask you a question before I go into my ending here. Are you going to continue this realm and dig deeper?
Yeah, if God puts it on my heart, I'm going to dig deeper. I'm working on 3, 4, 5 projects right now. 3 are X threads that I think are going to blow people away. That prove some things with President Trump that are wonderful, and I'd love to come back on and explain those. I'll be releasing one of those next Tuesday. And then I'm working on Freedom in Action, Remember Your Oath, because I want to give people the tools so they can fight back within their communities and make a difference. Everything I do for free, you know that. So this is what I'm really working on. Now, if some more information comes across me, and many times when I do a show like this, I'll get an email or so on and so forth. If stuff comes across, I will, of course, if God puts it on my heart, I investigate it. But this stuff is
How can they get to you, Lewis? How can they get to you?
Well, I guess you can see everything I do to make it easier is we created a website called screwbiggov.com. In fact,
my favorite name in the world.
It's on this
name.
You wouldn't believe how many things that I can't do because I have the name Screw in it. So I put the logo. So there's a merchant account. There's a merchant account that just canceled me because I offended them with the word Screw Big Gov. So I sent them the logo, and they're not doing anything about it. So clearly, it's the Big Gov that I'm after that offended them. It wasn't the screw, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's who it is.
So if you go to screwbiggov.com, all the documentaries I've done, the films, my interviews, there'll be a link eventually from here to this interview there. My social media is there. So that's probably the easiest way to find me. But when you were talking, Delora, real quick, it hit me when you were talking about the levels and the way this is so compartmentalized of what these satanic crazies do. So I'm going to give you an idea. You have C-listers in Hollywood, you have B-listers, you have A-listers, and then you have the superstars, the royalty of Hollywood. By the way, those aren't A-listers, those are above A-listers. So the way it works is the C-listers are always promised stuff in order to do the hard work for the elites. That's the way they use the C-listers. The B-listers are up and coming, so then they start to try to compromise them, do things like this. If they don't think they're going to move up too hard, they actually end up paying money in situation. I'll give you an example. In the Playboy Mansion, there's a guy that's a B-lister, right, that they took pictures of, and he had to pay $100,000 for them to give the pictures back. Now, don't be naive. I guarantee you they have copies of those pictures. So if he ever became an A-lister, now he's completely compromised to do their bidding, whether that's promoting big pharma, whatever their agenda is. And then you have the A-listers. Nobody think twice. All A-listers are compromised, in my opinion. Every single A-lister is probably compromised. And if they opted out, they're in some independent realm. Maybe a Mel Gibson or maybe somebody like that, right? And I'm not even quite sure. But the A-listers compromised, and all the superstars are likely witches and warlocks, and that's a whole crazy thing for people to even talk about. But that's who the A-listers and the superstars especially.
People won't believe that. People won't believe that. They, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there was in fact, I might have him back. His name is Nathan Reynolds. I've been following Nathan Reynolds, who was the heir to the Reynolds aluminum fortune, since, God, it's got to be 20 years now, before people hadn't even knew who he was. He left. He ran for his life. I mean, he was a hitman at 10 years old. He'll tell you all this stuff. So this is what people don't understand. And this is what I learned from Nathan. There are families right across the street, right next door, that sit behind you in church, that are complicit. Do not think your name has to be Soros or Rothschild or Rockefeller or no. There are people that are everywhere that when you hear Nathan Reynolds' story, you understand how he grew up in one of the most honored families in his town. Everyone looked to them as the perfect family. And here he was assassinating people as a little boy. So he's out now. I'm sure he's got a kill switch or something because they're not bothering him. He's like on an organic farm. The man is a believer. He's he's got a beautiful family now. But that's what's happening, Lewis. People don't want to hear it because it's almost too much for them to take in, that they could be at any moment see people around them that they don't know, or they're the A-lister that they have fallen in love with and they watch all their movies is compromised. All right, so I'm going to go to screwbiggov.com. Lewis, I'm going to give you the final word. Anything else you want to add? Any events coming up or anything, please let us know.
Well, if anybody thinks this stuff is outrageous, just think of how smart the cabal is, and they've been doing this for over 1,000 years, and it's all compartmentalized, and everything's controlled. And when you get up to a level where you can completely expose, remember, they already have all the goods on you, so you're not going to be out there exposing when they have pictures of you having sex with a child. And trust me, that's what you're looking at on most of your.
And they'll set it up.
Absolutely.
Some of these people don't even have sex with a child.
No, they'll
drug you and put you in bed with a little kid.
That's exactly right. In compromising positions, you wake up, you don't think anything happened. It was a bad night. And then guess what? They say, hey, look what we got on you. And they're done. The people are afraid. And then if you do speak, they'll kill your family. You guys should look into Jennifer Hudson. So anyways, there is only thing coming up real quick is I will be at an event in Phoenix on May 2nd and 3rd. Which is an amazing event in support of saving children from human trafficking. And it's put on by the Moms Army. And you guys could go to, I don't even have the information here, but you could go to one of my channels and the information is going to be there. But get a table with us, hang out with us. We're doing everything we can. We're building a place called Peace of Heaven for children after they've been extracted from human trafficking, so they can be rehabilitated.
Now, where is that? Where's that going to be?
That's going to be in Northern California, the first one. And
Okay.
the thing is, many people say, why don't you just put them back to their parents? Well, unfortunately, over 70% of the children in human trafficking were sold by their family. So you can't put them back to the
That is
families.
absolutely, and that is, I know through experience
Yeah, you
as a
can't put them
talent
back there.
manager.
So, and you don't want to put them in the CPS system. So we have found a way to take care of these children long term until they're adults, and even after, without them being stolen by CPS after that. So we're doing a lot of work in that realm. That's what the Mom's Army is doing in Phoenix, which I'll be, and then I'll be at Rev 17, which you guys should check out in June in support of this also. So a lot of stuff going on.
Awesome. Awesome. When you have anything new that you want to, unpack, just let me know, because our audience loves hearing from you, and it would be great. Real quick, before I let Lewis go, I just want to go over tonight's Fab Four. It should be a good show. And the original, the OGs are here, so it'll be fun. That's 6:00, Fab Four tonight on Rumble, this channel. Go look at here. This is Be Still. It's from a scripture. Be still and know this is stainless steel. It's got a diamond cut necklace, a chain, also the cross stoned. And I forgot to announce this. Jenna will get upset with me. If your shipping is a day or two late, it's because she just moved yesterday. It's so funny, Lewis. We moved last week. Our daughter, who lives a few miles from us, moved yesterday. So it's like we're unpacking all over again. We're helping her move in. So she said, please understand if it's a couple of days late. Also, this is an incredible bookmark. Look at this. This is an angel feather. It's got a cross. It's got an Austrian crystal. And it says Psalm 91:4 engraved. It's a bookmark, and this is what hangs out the side. It comes like this. All these things allow us to do the gatherings. So please go there and joincountry.com and look in Delora's Closet. Look at new. Jenna said Saturday Steals discount available, 10% off from now until tomorrow night at midnight. Saturday, use the code Saturday, and always free U.S. shipping. Well, as always, Lewis, it's been a great show, and we'll have to come up with something. We keep saying this.
We will, because you know how I adore you, so we'll figure something out.
And likewise, and we should do something and maybe stream it on both channels at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be interesting.
I'm all in.
Would be interesting. We'll come up with something. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Love to your wife, and we'll see you soon. And remember, everyone, as you go through your day, go in the power of God. Ciao, everybody.